they're the first ones to see the meteors actually making impact. But I wrote in later, after I'd already started writing the book. I decided to expand the space station because I just felt like there was a lot of potential for stuff I could do on the space station. And so what I had was one of the meteors strikes a satellite in orbit, and a fragment from it hits the space station, which they repair the damage. It's all good, but then they find they're stuck with a stowaway that they didn't ask for, and it just escalates from there.
Fitz of Writing.
Hey there, Scribbles and Scratches. Welcome to the Fitz of Writing. I am your host, RM Johnson, and as always, this is for our creative edification as well as your entertainment. If you guys like what we do on the show, please comment, subscribe, share any likes, share whatever we have on all of our platforms. I do want to take a quick moment, and I just want to let everybody know, there's a lot of contests out there that generally require some kind of entry fee or, prestige for you to really get into. But we have a contest running all season long. It's free to enter. There's big rewards at the end where, we're offering some pretty substantial help for people that are trying to push that little bit of polish that they just can't seem to do on their books. On their own, and we're trying to get that to them for free. We kind of want to offer a mix of good accessibility to the community, but also aid. And I just want to remind everybody that we'll have more at the end of the show, kind of featuring that. But this week, our humble benefactor and patron, Sir Dr. Duncan Cackworth, Esquire, has brought us yet bit of mystery. Instead of trying to unravel the secrets myself, we sought out the master behind all the mayhem, Ryan McGinnis. Welcome to the show, Ryan. It's good to have you.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So the reason I kind of said it was a little bit of mystery is because you and I talked beforehand, but the community doesn't know. But when you submitted, originally you were talking to me about the Silent Death, which has got like a spy vibe to it. Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But
in that submission, you kept mentioning Terrestrial that's going to be coming out, and I guess as of now, it is out, and so we do want to talk about that more. But let's kind of get into what you initially submitted with us, which is the Silent Death, and it is a full length novel, correct?
Yes, it is a full-length novel. It is the fifth. It is the fifth story in the Xavier Green thriller series, which is kind of how I got my start being a published author.
Okay, and just for those that don't know, you want to kind of branch out a little bit. What is Xavier Green? Like, who is that as a character?
Yeah,
What is the stories he gets into?
So Xavier Green, the Xavier Green thriller series. When I first got this crazy idea to be an author, one of the ideas I came up with was this sort of. At the time, it was supposed to be like a James Bond homage, to the Ian Fleming books.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of took on a life of its own, and it kind of became more of a John Wick with a little bit of James Bond mixed in there. So it's pretty much it's an action thriller series. There's a lot of spy elements, like espionage elements, and also just a lot of weird stuff that I threw in there myself because I was looking at, it was my first series, and so I threw in a lot of stuff that I would be interested in. But this is the Silent Death is book 5 in the series, and Xavier Green, when the series starts, is an asset for a multinational. I wouldn't call it a corporation. I call it an organization called the Citadel, and they're kind of this it's your classic shadowy behind the scenes kind of multinational company that is pulling the strings and sort of directing world events from behind the scenes, and he's an asset for them. And his first mission, which is Tears of the Dragon, things go kind of wrong, and he ends up having to go against them. And so it kind of sets in order this conspiracy that takes place through the Xavier Green books, and leads right up into the Silent Death. The Silent Death deals with the grander conspiracy that's always going on in the book, and also with some personal issues with Xavier, where he has to go back to Japan. He has to go back to Tokyo, which is a place that he had promised never to come back to. And there are very much ramifications of him coming back. And so, so you've got him, you've got Yakuza, you've got assassins, you've got, a serial killer, maybe. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes in this episode of Xavier Green, but it's your usual, it's kind of pulpy, it's a lot of espionage, it's a pretty high body count book, I jokingly call them murder books with a friend of mine because they've got such a high body count. It's like these are murder books.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's what's going on with those.
I think there's definitely like a niche genre with like action that's a little bit more action than book. But I am curious. How many are there in? Like how long have you been writing the Xavier Green stories?
So I started. So the first one started as a hobby. So that took you know how that goes. That takes years. Before I got serious about it. It came out. I could have released it in 2020, but the pandemic was going on, so I waited a year because I just figured that would suck all the oxygen out of the room. And so we started in 2021, and I've had this is the fifth one. It's actually the sixth if you count. There's a short story you can download for free on my website, Ryan-McGinnis.com. There's my little cheap pop there. But so there's five. There's Tears of the Dragon, the Osiris Initiative, the Delicate Art of Death, the Musician's Daughter is the freebie, and then the Firefly Collective and the Silent Death. And so that's all five that are out now. It has been almost 2 years since I did a Xavier Green thriller. The Silent Death was just the most recent thing. People don't know podcasts take time. Hooking up with podcast people, finding podcast people. When I first started talking to you guys, I was still talking about the Silent Death, and then since then I've transitioned into the new book, and so it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good pivot point. Let's talk about the new thing. I mean, that's what's coming out, or that's what's out now.
It is out, yeah.
And this is a bit of a departure from the Xavier Greens. This is a sci-fi story, correct?
It is, yes. The new book is called Terrestrial, and it is a sci-fi thriller. It's my first sci-fi book ever. It is also my first wide release book. We can talk about this a little more when we get to the writing section, and get in the weeds. But originally, the Xavier Green series has always just been available on Amazon, which I did use their expanded distribution. So you can, bookstores can get it, it's available, stuff like that. But it's always just been in the Amazon ecosystem, and Terrestrial's the first book that's been out wide. You can get it, Barnes and Noble, Smashwords, Kobo, all that kind of stuff, online. It is a book. I actually wrote the outline for this book. It was inspired by Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle. I'm a huge Vonnegut fan, and I love Cat's Cradle, and I love Slaughterhouse-Five. And I do rereads of them occasionally, throughout the years. And I reread it, it was probably 2019, and got the idea for what would become Terrestrial. And I wrote the outline, but at the time, when the Xavier Green stuff started coming out, it's like I always wanted to write Terrestrial, but at the time when I started Xavier Green, it was, you've got to have a series. That was all the advice out there. And so every time I would want to write Terrestrial, I was like, yeah, but I really need to write the next Xavier Green. And so I would just keep doing that. And I finally got enough of a break after Silent Death to actually sit down and write it. And I'm glad I did, because I really enjoyed that book.
It's funny you mentioned that the advice you were getting is like series, like have a series, because the thing I've always heard is it's better to write like a bunch of standalones and move from there, and then kind of graduate into series or a trilogy. Certainly don't try not to start with a massive 100+ word epic.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
it's funny how we all get like different advice and pick it up from there. I
Mhm.
do want to break into Terrestrial a little bit more. Like, who's our main character? What are readers kind of expected to get into regarding the story?
So terrestrial follows the what's the right word I'm looking for? Well, it follows. So basically, there are meteor impacts across North America, and the book follows the fallout from that. And it deals with, on Earth, you've got Simon Stilwell and Alex Ramirez, who are both scientists. One works for NASA, the other works for Berkeley, California, but they get pulled in to to investigate the phenomena that are starting to happen at the different craters from the meteors, because I mean, like on the face of it, that's a big disaster. But the book really deals more with the fallout from that disaster and what happens afterwards. Instead of the actual impacts, there's not a whole lot. The impacts are mostly shown in like television footage that they're watching TV, or they catch stuff after it's happened, and there's phenomena that happens with this, and they're having to deal with it. And at the same time, on the International Space Station, um, which is where the book opens, they're the first ones to see the meteors actually making impact. But I wrote in later, after I'd already started writing the book. I decided to expand the space station because I just felt like there was a lot of potential for stuff I could do on the space station. And so what I had was, one of the meteors strikes a satellite in orbit, and a fragment from it hits the space station, which they repair the damage. It's all good, but then they find they're stuck with a stowaway that they didn't ask for, and it just escalates from there. So it just kind of forms this, so you've got like this dual narrative going on, where on Earth you've got the scientists trying to figure out what's going on with these craters, and they're having to deal with extra pressure from from the government. The administration isn't so convinced that this is a big deal and that we should be spending money on this. And so they spend a lot of time trying to jump through hoops and trying to get the government to go along with what they're seeing. And then on the space station, you've got, of course, on the International Space Station, you have people, you have cosmonauts from Russia, you have astronauts from the United States, sometimes you have Japanese astronauts, and all these people. And so we're having to deal with like the international tension as well, before people kind of figure out, okay, we need to come together and do something, or we're in real trouble, because the invaders aren't as distracted, and they're very set in their purpose.
Yeah, it almost
so we have to
sounds
get our
like
act
you're.
together.
It almost sounds like we're branching a little bit into like disaster film level of storytelling, where it's kind of like more about like how people respond to this thing and versus the thing that we're focusing on. Is that an
Yeah,
accurate
yeah, a
depiction?
little bit. Yeah, yeah. I stick with my action roots, but like I told somebody recently that I feel like this is a more grown up novel for me, because the Xavier Green novels. Well, I mean, we talked about it. The Xavier Green novels are murder books. It's
Eh,
action, action, action. It's set piece, set piece, set piece.
those are grown up
And this
too.
is more of and this is more, Terrestrial's more getting into to humanity and how things work, and just being a lot more. It's not just like action set piece and action set piece stacked on top of action set pieces.
Yeah, it's a little bit
It's
more
more of a
philosophical.
yeah, more philosophical, more dealing with the bigger picture, and dealing with, and I guess in my own way, dealing with real world issues, because as writers, I mean, that's our therapy. We write. So if stuff bothers me in real life, I'll find a way to work it into the book. And Terrestrial is no exception to that.
So I think and correct me if I'm wrong. I do have ADHD, so my brain kind of does
That's
come in and
okay.
out. But we talked about when you mentioned like your desire to always write it. I'm not sure if you mentioned the kind of the origin of the idea of what sparked the idea of writing Terrestrial. Like, where did that come from?
Um, it was so I read Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut again, and I mean, that's been just Kurt Vonnegut has been a big influence on my sci-fi reading, and I just wanted to come up with an idea. I'm sure I read a story about a meteor impact or something, and I just kind of went from there. And and I think the idea came to me from him, but also, and originally I wanted it to be more like him. I wanted to write it in more of a satirical style, more like he does, but I toned it down. And that's why I like having these ideas. Like sometimes I'll have ideas sit in the folder for years,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of percolate, they kind of change as the years go by, because I modernized this story a lot, because when I originally wrote it, it was more of an old-fashioned, like more of like an old 50s sci-fi kind of homage, because once again, there's something I really like to sit around and watch, which is old 50s sci-fi, old black and white sci-fi. And so I had written it much more like that, and I modernized it a lot. And then when I actually sat down to write it, I modernized it again and worked in the whole International Space Station angle. So, I think it's just it's environmental, it's pro humanity, I mean, it's some people love it, some people hate it. I mean, it has. No, I mean, really, it has to do. If I tell you that the story is pro humanity and pro environmental, you know that there's going to be some people that it ticks off,
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Well, I completely understand. We on this channel have a little bit of running joke. We are pro human here on the Fitz of
right,
Writing.
as you should be, as you should be.
I say that, but it's like the reason why I have to say this, because like every conversation we end up started talking about like the duality of man and just how horrible we are, and then I have to go, but we're pro-human, we're
Yeah, we are pro humanity here. We don't want want anything bad to happen. No matter how much we write about it,
or how much we might deserve it as a species.
Yeah. It's like Ryan. Why are you writing about the world being destroyed all the time? Oh, no reason.
Just daydreaming.
Gotta have goals,
Yeah. I am curious. This question was initially for the thing that you submitted, but since then we have gotten the new updated cover art for.
I know. I need to send you. Yeah, I need to send you all the stuff.
But I am curious about like how you get your cover art done. Do you seek out someone? Do you manage it yourself? Do you put it up on Fiverr?
So, funny story. I used to, and I'll keep this as super brief. We'll keep this one super brief.
Okay.
But I used to be in a band for a long time. Had hair down to whatever. I was in this band. We were on an indie label, and it was cool. I mean, whatever. This is back in the '90s, back in the late '90s, and all the indie labels started going out of business, and our indie label went out of business. So we had to form our own record label, because I mean, we were regionally we were pretty big in our area, and so we needed to keep it going. And so we were all just like, okay, we're gonna have to do this all ourselves. And so we learned how to do graphic design, to do the flyers, which I'd already been doing some flyers because I used to run a club, but flyers, marketing, calling people, trying to get interviews. If all this sounds familiar, it's because it is. Like all the stuff we had to do as a band, we also have to do nowadays as indie writers. And so that kind of prepared me for it. Being in a band, the covers, every cover I've got, I do it. All the marketing you see, I do it. Like I mean, my day job is running my own business. I do websites and graphic design and SEO and stuff like that. And so it all just kind of falls in my lap. Like I've always had the artistic talents, and so Terrestrial's cover art, Silent Death, all that stuff, I do it all. I do it myself. No Fiverr, no reaching out to people. I just do it. I'm pretty much a one-man operation when it comes to that.
Well, you should definitely like after this email your deets for the graphic design stuff, because Sean and I might reach out to you at some point, depending on how
right on.
how successful this show goes. But yeah, I did see that in your submission, you did mention that you ran a legendary punk rock club back. Now, legendary was your term. I don't know. I don't know how legendary.
Yeah, the Milestone Club. Well, hey, it's got a documentary about it on Amazon and Apple TV, so I guess that
Hmm.
counts for something.
It
The
certainly
place
does in
is
my
the
book.
Milestone Club. Yeah, the Milestone Club in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's been called the CBGB of the South, or the CBGBs of the South, and it's just, yeah, that was a very that place had a major effect on my life, and it's basically just this like dilapidated house on the west side of Charlotte. And I mean, but it's a punk rock club.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Black
very
Flag's
punk
played
rock.
there, Nirvana's played there, Black Flag, REM, the Go Go's, like all these bands have like played this place.
Yeah, when you
And it's just
said
crazy because
when you
it's just an
said
old house,
legendary punk rock club, I was thinking either like you said a dilapidated house or just like an abandoned
Yeah.
parking lot somewhere. I was like,
Right,
that's
right,
about as
right.
punk rock as you could get, I imagine. I don't want to get too
Yeah,
far
yeah,
into the
no
weeds
doubt.
on that, like you said. But we also were talking. You have a new project coming out, some hybrid work. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. You said
Oh yeah,
you're calling it
yeah.
the anthology for right now, but it does have a name that you're floating around.
Yes, yes, yeah, we've been jokingly referring to it as the anthology, but it is called the Tao of Stowe. It is a collaboration that I'm doing with a client. Their name is Stoic, and Stoic basically uses Stoic philosophy to teach businesses, organizations, and individuals how to better their life and make better decisions and lower their stress using Stoic philosophy. So, what we've done with this book is they have given me their seven tenets of Stoic philosophy, the seven philosophies behind Stoic, one for every letter. And I'm writing short stories that show it's tales of, I mean, suspense, some drama, about how everyday people use these philosophies to get through some really hard situations, and so these have been very challenging for me because, in case you haven't noticed from what I've been telling you about my writing has been like action, body count, murder books,
Yeah.
or aliens, coming in from outer space or whatever. And so now with this, I feel like I've joked with them that I'm writing like Lifetime movies, because I have to write like real life drama here. Like we have to do like real life, like situations. And so I write the stories. And what the book's going to be is the book's going to have 7 sections, one for each tenet, and each section is going to have an intro written by one of their counselors, Kelvin Brim. And he is going to write the intro talking about the tenet. Then we're going to have my story, and then we're going to have him kind of wrapping it up, giving his thoughts on the story, and then giving exercises into how you can incorporate this specific Stoic philosophy into your life.
Hmm.
And so, that's the anthology. It's going to come out sometime this summer. We're working toward it. We're almost done. We're almost done. And I'm just squeezing it in with all my different, all my different fiction projects. So
Yeah.
I say and it's funny. I call it a nonfiction project, even though everything I'm writing for it is fiction. So it's like, so it's kind of a hybrid, fiction, nonfiction kind of thing.
Yeah, it just feels like nonfiction because you're talking about something that's very
Right.
applicable to natural life. Yeah, I can definitely get that. I feel like this is a good time to kind of throw in a word from our beloved patron here. Sean, you want to throw that ad up?
Greetings, Scribbles and Scratches. I am positively spellbound to announce my incredible contest. A free writing competition designed to reward those daring few who are striving to stride the hard road to publication. Yes, free I say. No entry fees, no hidden curses, no genre restrictions. To enter, simply request a submission form and submit. And the winner, the glorious winner, shall receive top-tier professional grade line, proof, and copy editing from a best-selling editor, completely free. Up to 30,000 words or half the book, whichever comes first. A guaranteed interview and additional promotion from the Fitz of Writing upon publication. So, Scribbles and Scratches, request the form. Submit with confidence. This has been Sir Dr. Duncan Cackerworth, Esquire, reminding you that ink, when properly wielded, can create the most incredible of things. Strike the like, and semper scribe.
Again, the link for the ad, for the contest and all that stuff is below. All the details are in that link. You'll see it. You've seen this enough. You know how it works. I do want to kind of pivot the show into more of our open discussion, just general like writing stuff, but it is kind of focused on you. You are our guest, so a lot of this is your opinion stuff. But I do want to. We asked this question, and I feel like you've kind of answered it, but we'll try to dig into it a little bit more. And this question is like, where does your story begin? Which is like your writer's journey. Like, how did you pick up? What made you interested in writing from the get-go? And like, if there was a pause, like what made you kind of wait to start really getting into it seriously? And then what kind of spurred you to ignite and go full force into it?
Well, I have a saying that behind every great man is a woman going, get off the couch, or a partner, whatever you want to say, saying get off the couch and do something. And that's very much my case. I think in my case, it's my wife. I've always had a really imaginative mind. I've always been really creatively, focused. It's like if I don't have something to do, if I don't have a project, if I don't have like a podcast or a piece of art or a piece of music or something that I'm working on, I'm not happy. If I'm just sitting around bored, I am not a happy camper. And my wife one day was like, well, you have all these ideas. Have you ever thought to write them down? And I'm like, ding, it's a light bulb over my head,
Yeah.
And so I started writing down a bunch of story ideas, like a ton of them. And I didn't even intend on Tears of the Dragon being the first one I wrote, the Xavier Green. It's the one that I just kind of gravitated toward, and I was like, well, I'll start fiddling with this. And then I quickly learned that I needed to get better at writing. Because, that makes sense. If you're going to be a painter, you have to practice painting. And, if you're going to be a writer, you've got to write. And so, I did write at the time, but it was more like writing copy for websites, so it wasn't like I was like a creative writer. And so I spent years, while it was just a hobby, taking any writing project I could get, like seriously, like for clients, write blogs, write whatever, do guest spots, I would write everything. By the way, your pipe looks very distinguished. It's very distinguished. I like that.
That's my secret.
I wish I had a pipe. I wish I had a pipe too, man. I could like pop my pipe in there. We could just sit here and pipe our pipes.
Yeah.
But as I kind of worked my way into being serious about writing, I had to work on my writing a lot, and so I did a lot of work. I did blogs for places. I did writing for clients. Like anything anybody needed, I wrote. And because the whole thing was trying to build up my writing muscle, so to speak, you know. And I did that for years, and then I got serious about it. And once I got serious about it, I cranked out the story. We moved across the country, and we moved from Wichita, Kansas to Brownsville, Texas. And we arrived in Brownsville, and the pandemic hit, and we were in lockdown. And then, by God, I finished my book because we were on lockdown, so we couldn't do anything. So, I was stuck at the house, so I wrote the book. So the book was done. And like I said, I postponed. I didn't want it to come out in the height of the pandemic, so I waited till 2021, and it came out. It came out in 2021, and just been writing ever since then.
Yeah, I have a very similar experience with the pandemic. I was one of the very blessed few who was like not having to go to work, but still getting earning a paycheck, and so I just felt like I felt like I had to use that time. Otherwise, I was just kind of like on everybody that was struggling to find work. Right. And so I was just like, not that me working on a book was benefiting them, but I just felt like I had to do something with that time.
Right.
And so like that's when I really kind of like educated myself. I felt like it was a good time for a lot of creatives to kind of sit back and just be like, let's try to make something. I've got all this time, let's try to do something. So it's great to hear that
Yeah.
you kind of have a similar story. Um, what kind of author or writer do you feel like you are? Are you kind of like what they call an architect or a gardener, uh, plotter, planner?
Um, oh, I am very much a plotter. I could
Right?
show you entire folders. Yeah, I could show you entire folders where it's just story idea after story idea after story idea where and in some cases I've got almost the entire book plotted out um, in the folder, because the way I learned to do it, the way I taught myself to do it was I write an outline. And the outline is usually each paragraph ends up being a chapter of the novel. So
Hmm.
if I've got like 60 paragraphs, then it's going to be like 60 chapters. And so then when I sit down to write, I basically just each chapter I just take that paragraph and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to write about, and we make a whole chapter out of it. It's basically just a paragraph, like an outline, just kind of telling you what's going to happen in that chapter, and I just and that's how I do it. But but I am a bit of a planner in that I will have that outline, and then once I start writing, if other stuff starts making more sense, I will change it.
You'll
Like I
pivot.
said with Terrestrial, it started out being very kind of satirical. There was a lot more comedy elements to it. A lot more like something that Kurt Vonnegut would write. And then I made it serious. I made it a little more serious. I changed the intro, and because I had this like total Vonnegut type intro for the book, and I totally cut it out. And somebody on another show I was on was like, "Oh man, you should like totally still write that because it would be really funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it didn't really fit. But it didn't fit the tone of the book anymore. After I changed the book, so I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that joke that I was gonna do, for the first chapter. But but you know but I added the entire like I tweaked certain stuff. I tweaked certain characters that I'm not going to get into, but because I don't want to, that's a whole different tangent. But I tweaked certain characters to make it more relevant to modern times, and certain elements to make it more relevant to what's been going on in the real world. And then I also added the entire space station thing, and I'd already written like God, probably 8, 9 chapters. And I just got this idea that, wow, I can think of all this. Like, I mean, the International Space Station is such a fragile environment and such a claustrophobic environment. If you add in like a little bit of alien, add in an organism there that's kind of invading, that would make for some good, like you can mine that for some good suspense. And it's kind of silly stuff I think about as a writer, you know. So it's like I am a plotter. I'm a very much a plotter, but I also do incorporate elements of pantsing, so to speak, of just letting it do its thing. There is a story that I've never released, and it's not done, but I've got a story that I totally just wrote off the top of my head, and I got about 13 chapters into it, and I've never finished it. But I also was writing it on my phone, if that doesn't sound crazy. As if it wasn't crazy enough that I'm just making it up. I wrote it entirely. I wrote like 13 chapters on my phone, and I would just be like at the vet, waiting with my dog or something, or wherever, and I just pulled my phone out, and instead of scrolling social media, I would just open my writing app and just start writing, you know, on my phone. So I've tried some stuff. I'm not afraid to try different techniques.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's probably good. There's definitely times I've had where I've essentially written an entire book in my head while waiting for like
Yep.
the car to
Yep.
get out of service or something, and then you're like, man, I wish I would have wrote at least 50% of that down
Right.
so that I could go
Right.
home and finish it. But yeah, it's a thing. I do want to kind of ask you about like your focus as a writer. Do you kind of do you put more like emphasis on your character, your plotting, dialogue, descriptions? Like, where do you feel like you put most of your weight as a writer?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank
I
you. I'm
like to think
trying.
I bounce. I think you're doing great, man. You're doing
Thank
great.
you.
Just keep
Thank
on
you.
with the pipe. It looks great. But no, I think with mine, I think I try to do different things with different books, and I try to. Um, Xavier Green has been like the sandbox for me, where I'm just kind of learning and just developing and doing stuff, and um, I try to concentrate on the characters. I think the characters and the dialogue can drive a book. can move the plot along and everything. Like it doesn't have to have the most intricate plot in the world. As long as you have good connections between the characters and the dialogue's good, it'll move the book along, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I've expanded on that with Terrestrial. And it's funny you ask, you know, like who's the main characters in Terrestrial, and I think it's more of an ensemble. Like I named Simon and Alex because they're the two main scientists on Earth, but it doesn't really focus hardcore on any one person, you know, as much as it focuses on groups of people. Um, That's funny. Apparently, I did not turn that alert off. Hopefully, that bing didn't come across on here.
I didn't hear nothing. We're good to go.
I'm in the middle of talking, all of a sudden it's like bing, and I'm like, what the hell, you know? But you know, it's more of an ensemble. Whereas the Xavier Green is definitely, your main characters are Xavier Green, Stacy Martinez, you know, Bill Logan, you know, those are your three main characters in those books. But in Terrestrial, which, you know, I'm definitely doing a sequel to it, which I haven't announced that anywhere. So I just said that on your podcast, first time ever, you know. But you know, I mean, there is a new Xavier Green coming. That's no secret. I spoiled that on a podcast the other month, but you know, but there is a sequel coming to Terrestrial. But I think it's more about, I think maybe in that one we will kind of focus more on some of the individual people. I think we spent the first book was pretty much an ensemble, but we did focus on Alex a bit and Simon a bit. And then on the space station, you know, there were a couple people that we, Dante, you know, comes to mind, that we focused on him a little bit. And then it was more, you know, we let everybody have their time to shine.
Well, that's definitely, yeah. It seems like with Terrestrial, it seems like your focus was more on the tensions of the problem and how to solve it, and like things that come in. But I think my question was more just on a general statement, like where do you like to put your focus? I'd
like to put my focus on the people, honestly. Sorry, okay. I did a whole long-winded answer, didn't answer your question. No, I do like to put the focus on people, and I like to I like to focus on the relationships and on the dialogue, because I feel like that adds, you know, when you're writing a story, you want people to suspend their disbelief, you know, and you want them to buy whatever you're, you know, even sometimes the scenarios can be kind of ridiculous, but if you build it real enough and the conversations are real enough, then you can kind of carry people along on that journey. And I feel like that's what you have to do, you know, and I think I do that by trying to make realistic characters, very human characters, and make their dialogue real, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the track of, you can have an interesting story, but if the vehicle in which you're traveling down the road and the people inside the vehicle aren't fun to be with or to drive, you don't care what the scenery is like or what's happening on the trip.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the old horror movies, like the 80s horror movies. Like they didn't really make you care about any of those characters. Like you go to the camp, you get the camp counselors. Well, there's a guy killing all these people, you know, and you go for the fun and for the shock of it, but you didn't really care about the characters.
No.
You know, and I think that's the difference. I think if you want to take a movie or a book and elevate it, you have to make people care about what they're watching and the people they're watching. And a lot of times I watch stuff and I'm like, boy, I hope something happens to that person soon. They're really annoying.
Well, it also kind of depends on what you're creating. I feel like schlock is like its own genre now. You know, and people read and watch different things for different reasons, and I think as long as you're in that zone and you're not trying to like make it more than it is, I think you'll be pretty successful. But on a whole, I agree with you. I think you need to make your characters more interesting. That actually brings up an excellent question that I didn't have prepared here for myself. What is your stance on like humanizing villains?
Oh, I'm all for it. But I mean the worst villain doesn't think they're a villain. You know, the worst villain thinks they're doing good. You know, thinks that they're trying to help everybody. You know, it's like watching. I was watching the other day, Daredevil. new season of Daredevil, and you've got Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, is the mayor of New York. He really, on some level thinks he's helping New York, when really he's not really being much help. He's a villain, he's doing villain stuff. But I think that I'm very into humanizing villains, and I think it can make for a better story. The main villain of the Xavier Green series, which is Davos, and he is like this, evil genius, Blofeld type character.
Mhm.
And when I started writing him, he doesn't actually show up until the second book. And I started writing him and I just couldn't quite make it, couldn't quite find it. And then I got this vision in my head of him being like an evil Jeff Goldblum. Like imagine Jeff Goldblum, only evil.
Okay. Okay, I'm there.
And once I got that in my head, Davos is one of my absolute favorite characters to write because he's eccentric and weird, but he's also evil, like totally corrupt, So it makes for a fun character. It makes for a fun character. And now, and since I am writing another Xavier Green, I'm getting to revisit that character. So, he's pretty much Davos is he's in the Silent Death, but he doesn't get as much of a forefront as he's getting ready to get in the new book. So, but he's a lot of fun to write. Like once I can like assign a personality to a character, then it becomes really fun. That's when everything really takes off.
Yeah, it does help, especially like when when you're writing dialogue for them. It makes it more fun. I have a character I was like trying to work on, and I just couldn't like get them to be where I wanted, because they kept slipping into like a general like mob boss kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing was I ended up changing their gender from male to female. And for whatever reason, it just made everything they said like there's more tension. Yeah, it created more tension, oddly enough. And I was just like, I love this. I love this character now, and now I've got their voice in my head, and it's coming out smooth. We've been talking about characters and like the villains that we think are the best. What in your opinion, what element do you feel like is what truly makes a great story? Like regardless of genre, like if it's in there, you feel like they've told a great story.
I think the element. See, you're asking hard questions now. I wasn't prepared for hard questions.
Well,
this
is an opinion.
No, no. Opinion wise, I think you have to make a likable character, and then you have to put them in just this insurmountable situation. The people have to buy into the character. They have to think he's cool or nice or noble or whatever he's supposed to be. Or maybe he's a broken character and he's trying to get back, he's trying to get redemption. And you got to sell that so that people really want him to get that redemption. And then you've got to completely screw up his journey as much as you possibly can. Like put as many obstacles in his way and make it just insurmountable so that, you don't know how they're going to get out of this. I think that's, to me, that's the crucial element is you have to make them believable and give the people something to care about, and then put them in mortal danger, like where they lose their job or something, like whatever the story is, and you have to just build these like insurmountable situations for them to come back.
That's a creative way to answer the question. I didn't know what I expected from an answer, but I think that's a pretty strong one. That's how I feel about a lot of these questions. Is like I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it and see what comes up.
I think I rarely answer the way people expect me to.
Well, I'm not trying to knock your answers. You're giving good answers. I feel like that does kind of pivot us into the big question. We were talking about challenges. In your opinion, and so my big question is, can you or will you share like a particularly challenging scene that you had to write, whether it's like challenging for you to write it because you're just like it's not coming out the way you wanted to, or you just felt like this scene is like hard for me to get through just because it's like so emotional or it's so tense.
There's been quite a few. I mean, with Xavier Green, there's a lot of fights, and so keeping a fight scene like where there's physical fights, like where they actually like strike each other, kick each other, throw each other, do whatever, to keep all that straight, especially if it's a multi-person fight, is very challenging. And I've read, I can't remember whose novel it was, but somebody wrote a novel. It was a Shogun type novel. It was a samurai novel, and I remember drawing inspiration from that. I cannot remember the name of the novel right now, but I remember reading about it, and the way that they depicted the action in there, is the way I had to depict it, but it's very hard because you have to make sure that you stay oriented. You have to make sure the person stays oriented. You have to make sure the fight doesn't drag on and on. Like, you can't spend like paragraph after paragraph describing fight holds. People aren't going to stick with that, And so I think the physical combat is very challenging to write about, if you're going to make it good. If you're not just going to be like, oh, he punched him, he fell down, whatever. If you're going to put some effort into it, it can be very difficult. In the opposite direction, the writing I've been doing for Tao of Stowe, for Stozaic, a lot of that had to do with interpersonal relationship drama between people. A lot of it, it's a lot of finding yourself and figuring out the situation you're in. And like I joked earlier, I'm doing Lifetime movies, and to me, that's even harder because, I've been used to doing the action genre stuff. I've been used to doing the science fiction stuff, and doing scenes where it's emotional, where it's there may have been, a misunderstanding years ago, and these people are trying to find their way back, from that and trying to save this relationship. It's a whole different world for me, and I have found those stories, even though each story's between 6 and 8 chapters, but that's been some hard writing. There's been some really different, because it gets me outside of the comfort zone, and it makes me really work at stuff. But I've also, these guys have been taking some of the stories that I write and taking them to their actual workshops they do, and making people read them and stuff as like required reading for their coaching sessions and stuff.
Letting people read them, not forcing them.
Well, forcing it into their head. This is a required thing. No, but they do, and they've sent me videos of people. They've had people that got really excited about those stories because they're like, man, I had a cousin and we had this very same thing going on, and this just meant so much to me. So that's pretty rewarding.
I can imagine.
It's pretty rewarding for me to get outside my comfort zone and try something like that, and then people be like, oh my god, I love it. Not that you can take, and this is a whole different subject, but not that you can take reviews seriously one way or another. If you're writing, and you just got to kind of be like, okay, cool, because I've had people in the same day say that the book was the best thing they've ever read, and somebody else write that it's the worst thing they've ever read on the same day. So you just have to be like, whatever, I don't care,
Yeah.
Art is subjective,
It is. I'm with you. Don't buy too much into it. I always say appreciate the good stuff, ignore the bad stuff, but don't put too much stock into either. Because a lot of times when people are giving you positive reviews, they're just trying to be nice and helpful and supportive. It may not have been the best thing they read, but they liked it, and that's all you could walk away with, I imagine.
Right.
And the people that have worse things to say, they clearly have more time on their hands than anyone else. I don't think I've ever left a bad review for anything. Even like things I really hate, I'm like, I ain't got time. I ain't got time to tell everybody how much I hate this.
I think that once I started, seriously being a writer and being an independent writer and having books out there, in the public eye and up for scrutiny, I think I got a different headspace about being critical of people's work. Because I started thinking about all the hard work that I put into my stuff, and so then I see like a movie and somebody's done this whole big movie and stuff, and most of the time I'm not going to be like, oh, that movie sucks. There's probably a few movies, or books, but I try not to, because as somebody who creates and you put yourself out there, it kind of changes your perception of all that, and you don't want to be as critical about stuff because you realize how much hard work goes into your stuff. And so, and you also kind of learn, like you said, if you don't like something, if I don't like something, I just won't leave a review for it. Like I won't say anything bad about it. I finish it and I'm like, do you want to leave stars? No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
But people that leave the bad stars, I still feel like is a victory because you made them feel something. You know, they might not have felt something good. It might have messed with their worldview. They might not have liked it, but you made them feel something, and they felt it enough that they were going to either rate you or say something about it. And so that's fine. You know,
Yeah. I
they
do
paid
love
their money for the book. You know,
I do love coming across some of those reviews where people are just like, I left 1 star because 0 stars was not an option. Okay.
I had a guy, and it might have been the Silent Death, maybe. It's on the Amazon, the UK site. It's on one of my books. I think it was the Silent Death. This guy took offense because in my bio at the time it mentioned punk rock, punk rock sensibilities, because I used to run a punk club, used to be in a punk band, Oh, he took offense at that.
He was a
This
naysayer.
isn't punk
was he?
rock.
Yeah.
This isn't punk rock, And he proceeds to write like this really long review, and it is just the funniest stuff. There, I censored myself. It's the funniest stuff I have ever read in my life. Like it is like I couldn't even be mad about it. It's just so over the top ridiculous that I was just like, this is art. This into of itself is art.
Yeah. Sean and I have been kicking around the idea of trying to see if any of our guests would like to come back to try to read some bad reviews. We don't know if anyone's picking up on it yet, because I know there's some doozies out there. I know there's just some that'd be funny to read. But some people...
if I can, I will touch on this. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I do want to touch on this. My book, I was talking about being pro-humanity and pro-environmental, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
Recently, Terrestrial, I guess somebody who is a supporter of a certain politician that can go unnamed unless you want him to be named.
Go ahead and say it. If Sean wants to cut it, he'll cut it.
I mean, the thing is, I got a doozy of a bad review recently from a Trump supporter, who accused me of being unable to restrain my leftist views, and I'm like,
yeah.
And hey, art is subjective. Everybody's opinion is valid. I think I ruined that dude's day, but I mean, cool. He spent the time to read the book. He spent the money on the book, and he read the book, and he still gave it 2 stars. So he couldn't even give it a 1 star.
There was a little bit of restraint.
Oh yeah, there was something in there he liked, but there's a lot of stuff he didn't like. But I mean, it's cool, It
happens, I also don't know. Was there a message in the book that said that you were going to restrain any ideologies, left or right?
Here's my thing.
What world do you live in where that's mandatory?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of science fiction my dude reads. Because he's talking about he loves science fiction, and I'm like, really? Because I mean, if you don't like leftist views, that cuts out a large swathe of science fiction.
Well, I can see why people would get upset if it was like a genre, not a genre, but like an IP, I'll call it, like an IP that has some sustainability already, and you're jumping in, and then you're inputting your stuff in there. Because some people are like, I don't want political ideology in my alien story, but if it's your own thing and it's your own story, put whatever you want in it. You don't have to read it. You don't have to like it.
I mean, if you think about what it was based on, if you've read any of Kurt Vonnegut's stuff, I mean, he skewered politicians left and right. He skewered political parties. He skewered religion. I mean, how many writers do you know? I mean, that's just kind of, writers have the ability to do that kind of stuff because it's their world. It's
well, at
their
least
book,
we should.
And if you don't, you should, yes. And if you don't like it, well, you don't have to read it. it's fine. Move on to something. There's plenty of books out there. So I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was really funny.
It is funny.
It kind of came out of left field, and
I feel like
I
this
got
is
accused of all kinds of stuff.
I feel like this is a good time to pivot to my truth time question, which is
let's do it.
It's a bit of a surprise to you, but I've asked everyone of the season so far. It is. You can't lie. You can't, try to be a politician about it. Give me your most honest answer. It is an opinion, but what? This is perfectly timed because of what we were talking about. But what do you hate the most about modern fiction today?
Oh God, what do I hate them? See, you're asking the wrong person. I don't hate.
You got to find something. I don't care what it is. I will say, as an example, a good example I had was someone said that like it's the cover art for like fantasy. Like when they were growing up, it was all like these matte backgrounds and beautifully drawn stuff, and now it's just like words with filigree, So like if it's something like that, it's perfectly fine, but that's just an example.
Oh my God, what do I hate about modern fiction that hurts? I don't have anything in general that I hate about modern fiction. I feel like I should, but I don't. I'm trying to think if I've read. Because I've been reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is like
that
a
is
big
popular
thing.
going around, yeah.
That is very popular, and I think it's a book you either get or you don't get. I kind of got sucked into it. I thought it was okay when I first started reading it, and now I just finished. I'm waiting on the new book to come out, so that's like 7 books later. So I've been reading it. God, I don't know. I don't know if I have something I really hate. I think I might have to. I'm drawing a complete blank. And I've read a lot. If I showed you my reading list, I've read a ton of books this year, and it's just I don't have this thing that I hate. It's like I read indie writers, I read some traditional published stuff, and I mean.
Well, let's try to docile it down. What do you feel like you could do without?
Oh. Well, I don't read any. I mean, if it's stuff I don't like, I just don't read it. Like I don't care about the romantic-y stuff. That's my wife's thing. She can read that. Books with dragons. I'm like, come on, y'all.
Are you talking about romancing dragons or just dragons?
Yeah, romance dragons. Come on, let's get back to dragons being monsters. Let's make dragons monsters again.
Yes. All right,
it's like Twilight. It's like Twilight for Twilight turned vampires into these twinkly little sex symbols. I'm like, no, let's go back to being monsters. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't know why that became a thing, but it did. I feel like we're getting out of it.
You forced that out of me. You forced that out of me.
Forced that out of you.
I was trying to be nice.
Yeah, I don't want to get you any blowback from the avid Twilight fans. How dare you denigrate our sparkly vampires?
Yeah. Yeah. The Fourth Wing fans will be coming for me with pitchforks, No, just kidding. I love you guys. Don't, everybody's into their own stuff. I'm just not into it,
Well, I feel like there's just I feel like there's a lot of weird romance going on between like vampires and werewolves. And like, it's just like what happened to just old-fashioned two people just falling in love? There's got to be some element of BDSM now, and you're just like, why? What happened? What happened to us?
Hey, more power to them. Those crazy kids. Who am I to say? I'm not into it. But if they want to be into it, cool. Whatever.
I would love to I would love someone to write, because I don't have it in me. I would love someone to write like a Twilight-esque story where they're just really focused on the ridiculousness of that love triangle that's happening. The absurdity of it.
Here's what would happen though. You would write like a satire of it or a parody of it. And you would do such a good job that people would take it seriously, and it would build a big following of people who actually love that genre. And you're like, no, wait, you missed the whole. You'd end up having to do a whole podcast tour where every stop you're like, no, really, you guys totally misunderstood what I was trying to do there.
Hey, if it's successful,
cool, I'm making money.
But I mean, could you just like imagine that conversation where it's like you have this doting teenager that's just like falling head over heels for this 2,000-year-old man, and he's just like, "Get away from me!" Like we
Yeah,
have
he's
zero
like,
common
"Yeah,
interests.
move on, kid. Well, or they're talking in the slang and vernacular that kids would have nowadays, and he has no idea what she's talking about.
He's talking, and he's not talking like Victorian, like he's talking just modern, and she's like emoji
Yeah.
speaking, and you're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, he's speaking like 1940s, 50s English, you know, and she's speaking modern emoji speak, and he's like, I have no idea
Yeah.
what language she's speaking. I don't know what's up.
Yeah. Well, this was fun. I hope you had fun being on the show. Everyone check out Terrestrial, check out the Silent Death, or the was it Alex? Am I saying it right? Alex Green?
No, Xavier Green.
Xavier
Too many
Green.
different characters.
I knew there was his X in there somewhere. Yeah, Xavier Green. Check out those stories. And is there let's remind people of where we can find you, find your stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can find me. The easiest place to find all my links is my website, which is ryan-mcginnis.com. Hopefully they put it across the screen. I don't know. Maybe they will.
It'll definitely be in the comments. I don't know where.
But,
it'll be in the description. I don't know if Sean's going to flash it, but
ryan-mcginnis.com is my website. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Threads. I'm pretty active on Threads, but I don't have a link for it on my website yet. But that's because I'm slack. I'll blame it on my IT guy, which happens to also be me. So
Yeah, I do that, but I actually have Sean. Sean's my IT guy. So.
I'll blame it all on Sean. Sean, it's on you, buddy.
He's my boss and my IT guy.
Right on.
And one more time, I just want to remind everybody about the season-long contest, the incredible contest we have going on. Submit your stuff. It needs at least 2 rounds of edits. That doesn't need to be anything professional. You can look at it twice yourself, have some friends and family. Submit that stuff. The winner at the end of the season gets some line proof and copy editing services for free from Kimberly Huther, who is a best-selling editor. She, like I said, it's in the video, it's up to 30,000 words or half the book, whichever comes first. And then you guys, if you like the services she provides, there's, continuation options after that. She's a fun person to talk to. She's a great person to work with by all accounts, and I enjoyed having her on the show. She's a friend of our channel. And I want to remind everyone one more time about our monthly contest, the Telltale. Well, it's not really a contest as much as it is a challenge. The Telltales, they run every Tuesday for the month. Check out, I don't know whose is up right now, but check it out. It's on our Facebook. We have the incredible society that we have, the Inkwell Society, on Reddit. It's our community there. It's a great way to get some direct communication with me, Sean, and perhaps our benefactor, Sir Dr. Duncan Cackworth, Esquire. There's a lot of fun stuff on there. And again, if you guys like the show, you like the people we promote, you like their stuff, promote us, promote them, go to their stuff, support them, support us. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, or subscribe, as we like to say. I want to thank Ryan McGinnis one more time for coming on to the show. Is there anything else you want to tout about before we let you go?
No, I think we're good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I think that's a wrap. We'll fade to black there.